There is a phrase I hate more than anything in the entire world. But the worst part is, I get to hear it every day. And so do you. That's just how it is. In my eyes, the most dangerous phrase in any language. Now, I want you to take a second and think about how many times you've heard these words used to either end a conversation, to close a question, or to stop an idea before it even begins. People, like me and you, naturally tend to use this phrase when we're tired of questioning things that don't have simple solutions, when a problem feels too big to fix, or an issue in society feels too normal to even question. Strangely enough, that's just how it is also embodies itself through different phrases that may seem typical but carry the exact same impact, such as, that's just how school works, that's just how society is, that's just how people are. But behind every that's just how it is, there is a but why, waiting to be asked. And that's where curiosity lives, right in that small, powerful space between acceptance and wonder. Because the moment you start asking why, you begin to realize that the world doesn't have to stay the way it is. It can shift, it can evolve, and so can we. When we were younger, we were full of questions. Questions that always started with why. Why is the sky blue? Why do I have to go to bed so early? Why do I have to eat 3 meals a day when I'm not even hungry? And since they seem like such harmless questions, they would usually get the same response. A sigh, a smile, a nod. Usually, you'll understand when you're older. But here's the irony. The second you grow older, you stop asking. Why? Why is it that curiosity, something that once came naturally, begins to fade? It's not because you lose interest. It's because you learn that questioning the world comes with consequences. And maybe that's why the curious child within all of you never got to become a curious adult. History shows us this very clearly. When Galileo looked at the sky and asked, what if the earth isn't the center of everything? He wasn't praised for his curiosity. He was punished for it. He was forced to stay silent, put on trial, threatened, and imprisoned, all as a way to get him to stop questioning what had always been accepted. And we see forms of punishment like this every day, even today, such as when asking why in a classroom gets mistaken for disrespect instead of curiosity. I mean, has anyone wondered why we teach our children to obey before we teach them to understand? No. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that asking questions isn't worth the risk. Today, I want to show you what's possible if you choose to simply take that risk. Because curiosity also happens to be the foundation of every sort of progress we've ever made, whether it's science, politics, technology, art, or even simple human kindness. In politics, curiosity creates empathy. It makes us ask, what if I tried seeing the world through someone else's eyes? In professional spaces, curiosity drives growth. It makes you ask, what if there's a smarter, fairer, kinder way to do this? But in society, curiosity becomes courage. It makes you ask, why should things stay the same if they're not helping us anymore? That's how curiosity turns into change. One brave question at a time. But for me, this wasn't just an idea, it was personal. When I was younger, I'd always felt subjected by the constant narrative that everyone around me kept shoving down my throat. Whether it was something I'd see on TV, something I'd hear my teacher say, or simply something I struggled believing in when everyone else around me could do it so easily. So naturally, as a child, I started asking more questions. I would raise my hand in classrooms or interrupt my parents during conversation, all as a way to find an answer. But I never did. And then eventually, I started to believe that curiosity did in fact kill the cat. And it was something that I and everyone else around me needed to tone down. But then, something changed. An environment, completely different from the one I grew up in, bestowed itself upon me. And before I knew it, I was surrounded by people just like me. People who didn't only ask questions, but lived in them. Some about politics, some about science, some about social issues I'd never even heard of. And for the first time, I wasn't told to stop asking. I was told to keep going. And it felt like stepping into a world where curiosity wasn't my weakness anymore. It was my superpower. That new environment completely shifted something inside of me, because then I realized that asking questions is only the first step, but it is the one step that hardly anyone ever takes. Because when you ask a question, it opens a door. It invites dialogue. It sparks conflict. It demands discussion. But from those discussions comes understanding, solutions, and real change. That's how revolutions start. Not with answers, but with questions that refuse to die quietly. And I think that's what we've forgotten. All of you here were born with the power to question, to challenge, and to imagine. But somewhere along the way, you were taught to forget it through phrases like, don't make it complicated. It's always been like this. Log kya kahenge? But the truth is, nothing great has ever stayed the same. Not ideas, not systems, not even people. In fact, everyone now who we call brave, brilliant, or ahead of their time was once someone who asked questions others were uncomfortable hearing. Because change doesn't happen to the people who are quiet. It happens because of the people who dare to ask. So here's my question to you. Will we keep teaching young people to stay quiet, or will we finally give them permission to be curious? Because that's just how it is, has never created a better future. And our world doesn't need people who fit in. It needs people brave enough to ask why and stubborn enough to not stop. That's how curiosity turns into change. Thank you.